So freedom. Freedom is the topic tonight. And I want to ask a really simple question as we get started. And then I'm going to tell you, I had such an unusual experience at TSA this weekend in the Seattle SeaTac airport. And it hurt my feelings. And so I hope to apply it and correlate it to the actual message. But even if it doesn't, I'm going to share it because I was offended and it hurt my feelings. And this guy was really mean to me. But before I get to that, I want to describe something that has been happening to me lately. And I actually expressed this to Chelsea, my wife, who is actually with our daughter right now at the volleyball game. So she's not here. It's not a problem. I'll do this without her. It's hard, but we're coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We leave Friday for an anniversary trip. It will be 25 years of marriage. And honestly, I really am in love with her. I want you to know we are sexually active. Might have been last night. All right, listen, let's not get into the nights and the details and the evenings and all that. But they say 46-year-olds can't do it. Like, Judah, no one says they can't do it. All right. Oh, man, I love you guys. Sometimes quiet nights are my favorite because I am going to be provocative until you wake up. That's the deal. That's the deal we got going, all right? So, but sincerely, there's been something that's happening to me. I'm like you, you're like me. We're very much more alike than we're not, okay? I have parts of my personality, parts of my practices, parts of my daily life, parts of me that I'm not proud of, parts of me that I wish would change, parts of me that I hope you don't see, parts of me that I hope you don't ever meet me at the wrong moment when I'm angry and I'm frustrated, or parts of me on the golf course that I really hope you never see. Anger, arrogance, frustration, entitlement, all kinds of things about me that if you're like me, I really want to change. Now, some of you, like Adonis, are young and have so much life ahead of you, but when you're 46, there comes a point in your life where you're like, for real, bro? Like, you're still throwing golf clubs. You're 46. Like, I'm so old, my sons now give me pep talks about my attitude. Used to be my dad. He's gone on to be with the Lord. And now I'm being lectured by my own sons like, Dad, get it together. And if you're like me, you go home and inside your head, you're telling yourself like, bro, honestly, what is wrong? Like, when are you going to change? Now, if you're like me, I also every single time convince myself this is the last time. I really believe myself. I'll give myself some credit. I really believe myself. I'm like, I'll never do it again. It's not who I am. I'm never going to exaggerate again. And then I'm in that moment and I'm like, but if I exaggerate, it will feel so good and this story will be even more enjoyable. Like, whatever it is that you struggle with, and trust me when I say exaggeration is not one of my top struggles. It is a struggle, but I got way worse ones than exaggeration. So I love preachers like me because we love to share our weaknesses very selectively with the congregation and the audience so that you think somehow exaggeration is my biggest issue, when in fact, things like pride and anger would be right at the top of the list for me. When I see people that are rude to people, I really get angry at those people. And then it dawns on me, I'm mad at them for mistreating humans, and now I want to mistreat them. And all of a sudden you're like, dude, what is wrong with me? I've got to change. Bottom line, what am I saying? I want to change like you want to change. Maybe you're sitting here tonight and maybe you got talked into being here. Maybe you came here on a date night in hopes that perhaps maybe some sort of speech and delivery and presentation and communication will somehow probe and maybe in some way prompt you to cause about some incredible change. And finally at 26 or 36 or 46, you're finally going to change that thing in your life you want to change. I love stories of change. You ever met somebody and they're like, it was 1992 and I was actually back in Chicago, and I'll never forget that afternoon. God met me there in the park downtown in the city, and God spoke to me, you're done. From now on, you'll never cheat on your taxes again. And that was the last day I cheated. You're like, whoa, bro, you cheat on your taxes? Whatever. But those those change stories, I'm here for them. It's my life. I go to lunch and coffee with guys all the time, and they're always saying, man, I never forget when God changed me. And if you're like me, I listen and I celebrate, but I also kind of project. And I think, boy, I'd really like to change that about me. Now, I'm gonna sound like I'm incredibly spiritual, but by now, those of you who know me well enough know that is not entirely the case. But what I'm about to share with you is one of those change stories. And I expressed this to my wife. She's not here to confirm it, but it's true. I said to her the other day on the phone, I said, you know, babe, I just dawned on me. Some of the things that I've wanted to change about me, I haven't had a desire. And then I said it. I said, perhaps, and they say, you know, you can't jinx it, but I was like, perhaps I'm changing. And I said to her, I said, I don't know what's going on. And we've had a challenging chapter. I mean, I think the world right now is in a really tense space collectively. You know, like, I haven't run into a lot of people that are like, oh man, this has been the breeziest part of my life. This has just been smooth sailing. This has been incredible. Like, you know, most people are kind of expressing some sort of like intensity, you know, in their life. It's kind of a lot going on and feeling a lot. And I've been feeling that, but I said to Chelsea, we were talking about some challenging things we were going through. And I said, you know what's wild though? I haven't felt angry. I haven't felt lustful. I haven't felt as selfish. And I didn't know how that would land, you know. I was hoping that my wife wouldn't say, really? I haven't seen that at all. Actually, you're pretty much the same. But she confirmed it. Guys, 25 years of marriage. I'm 46 years old. Like, trust me when I say we don't pull a lot of punches these days in our relationship, okay, in our marriage. And she goes, yeah, me too. And I've noticed that about you. And you know, right now you're like, dude, this is super cool, bro. That's sweet. Is this part of the message, or are we getting into it, or like, what are we doing here? Okay, all right. Bear with me. But it's been a phenomenal experience. And I really mean this. And part of what I'm gonna do for the next few minutes is try to explain to you the freedom that I think. If you're like me, the moment you talk about how free you are, you're like, uh-oh, I hope I stay there. But I want to express to you what I think has been happening to me. And perhaps, well, here's what I do know. If it happens to me, it definitely can happen to you. Okay, because you and me are more alike than we're not. And so my question tonight to you is, how free do you want to be? How free? Now, semi-rhetorical, meaning like, who's gonna be like, not totally. You know, how free do you wanna be, bro? Marginally, slightly. You know, no, everybody's gonna say like, come on, bro, like I wanna be all the way free. When I say freedom, what's the one thing you wanna be free from right now? When I say freedom, what's the one thing you want to be free? Now, if you're like, I can't think of anything, ask one of your friends. They'll have plenty of things you need to be free from. If you're married, ask your spouse. You know, I love people who are like, I honestly feel really free. I don't feel like there's anything. And it's like, oh, piety, you know, whatever, like arrogance, self-centeredness. Not piety wasn't the right word. Pious was the word that I was looking for. You know, like, we all have something. So now if you're like me, when someone says, how free do you want to be? I think of like anger pretty quick. And my dad would get angry. I can get angry. Of course, I've gotten good in my old age calling it, I'm just a passionate person. That's adorable. I'm telling you, I got an anger problem. But, you know, I'm just a passionate person. What's the thing you want to be free from? What if tonight we could start a process, and I could show you a process of how you could experience freedom? Now, I want to say before we get started, in fact, we're already started. What am I talking about? I want to say as we're getting going here that one of the ways that I believe you can experience freedom like you've never experienced before is actually, now that you've brought that thing to the surface of your mind, I just literally want you to let it go. I want you to give yourself a break for a moment, lean in, and enjoy a silly story about TSA security in the SeaTac International Airport. If you see something, say something. I've been flying since I was a little boy. I have seen all the iterations of security. Some of you weren't alive when you basically used to just kind of like walk through what was a barely working metal detector, and they kind of glanced at whatever you had on your body or were carrying, and you and your entire entourage could go to the gate with you, and there you could sit with all your friends and your pets and your balloons and your gifts and your birthday cake, and you could hang at the gate until finally you were there. And sometimes you and your friends could go on the plane who weren't even gonna fly in the plane, just to say goodbye to your friend, and we miss you and we love you. Hey, pilot, keep her in the air, and like it was pretty free. And now, of course, it is intense, and for good reason. I think we all remember and understand. But TSA are people I have to forgive a lot. I'm actually not joking. I really do find myself getting offended. Now, part of the reason is low morale. TSA have a morale problem. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know who we talk to. I really don't. I mean, honestly, if there was a presidential candidate who'd be like, I'm gonna run on boosting the morale of airport security around the country, I'd be like, I'm in. That's what I've been looking for in leadership a long time, because no one's happy at the airport. Particularly the people that are evidently being paid to be there. Like, they're not happy. No one's happy. Hey. The other day, my daughter and I, we were running to a gate, and it was so far away in LAX, my 15-year-old who just won her volleyball game, and we run up to the gate, and it says loading, so there's no indication if we're going to the right gate and the right place and the right destination. And so this man's clicking on the computer, and he's like, and I walked up, and I'm usually pretty pro at this, and you don't like walk up to the counter and ask if you're at the right gate. What a rookie move, right? But I'm like, I gotta do it. I walk up, I go, sir, is this the gate to Seattle? And he goes, yep. And I thought to myself, weird, not even eye contact. Like that's how sensitive I am. I'm like, could you give me a yes and look me in the eye? Paying customer, human to human, yep. And I wanted to be like, it was a reasonable question. There's no signs up anywhere or indication. Furthermore, this is the furthest gate I've ever experienced in all of LAX. My daughter and I agree. All right, so I'm just sensitive about that. I really like human contact. I love like dignity and looking at each other and being like, thank you, yes, you're at the right gate. Get on that plane and go, right? And Chelsea's like, it's unreasonable, and I'm unrealistic, but it's who I am, okay? So I'm like, thank you. Hope that's an important email. So a few days later, we're going through the SeaTac airport, and this airport's been under construction since you were 12 years old. I'm serious. The SeaTac airport, legitimately has been under construction literally since I was in middle school. So, and my daughter hates, her least favorite airport in all is the SeaTac International Airport. And so we're going through the airport, and if you're an old pro like me and you're kind of a flying savant, if you will. Like, dude, what does that even mean? I know there's three main portals by which you go through security at the SeaTac. Boom, boom, gauge. I'm going to the middle. We step in, and I'm like, whoa, pre-check. Which this is an interesting phenomenon. The TSA pre-check now, oftentimes, in my experience, is becoming more full than the line where you don't pay extra to get through fast. So I say to my daughter the unthinkable. I say, watch this. We're not going to pre-check. It's too full. We're going to go this line, and we're going to beat him. And she's like, okay, Dad. And I'm feeling pretty good about this decision. And sure enough, we go to another, and it's wide open. And I walk up, and I go, pre-check's packed, huh? And the guy's like, right? And we connect. This guy, we connect. And he's like, dude, you nailed it. And I'm like, thanks, bro. It means a lot. Little things matter to me, all right? Sue me. And I'm like, bro, am I doing this? I was like, I'm pre-checked, but it's packed. He's like, dude, totally. So I show him. Now I'm feeling pretty good. And I keep telling Grace, this is a good decision. This is a good decision. Some of you are like, wow, is he okay? I don't know. So we get up there, and I show my boarding pass and say, we're pre-checked, so I don't have to take my shoes off, because tonight I wasn't wearing any socks. And he's like, yeah, no, you still gotta take your shoes off in here, bro. And I was like, and now I'm like, oh, I didn't really prepare for that. Do you guys do bare feet in an airport? Ladies and gentlemen, do you wanna die? Okay? Guarantee when I took my shoes off and walked on like crude airport floor, it cut at least 9 months off my lifespan, 100%. Okay, so now I'm like, and I'm looking at the guy and I'm like, really, bro? All right. So I'm like, all right. I'm kind of looking at him. He's like, yeah, sorry, dude. And I'm like, all right. So put it in the bin, and then I come through and I realize like, oh, that's right. I got to go through the like. So I'm like, I'm doing this, and I'm like, all right. Usually I don't want to brag. I'm usually TSA pre-check, don't have to do this. So I do this, no word of a lie. You can't make this up. I'm like this, and the guy goes, your feet, sir. And I look down, and my toes are about this short of the toe outline that's in yellow plastic sticker. And he's like, sir, move your feet up. And I literally wanted to be like, are we for real, bro? And so I'm like, so I move up, and I want to be like, are we good? And he's like, hands up, hands up. I mean, is there a worse? No, everyone's monotone. There's no lift. There's no inflections in anyone's voice. Hands up, toes forward. All right. You're good. I walk by. Now I'm about to get my shoes, right? I'm coming over here to get my shoes. And the guy goes, no. So you stand over here till you're cleared. Now I'm in timeout. So I'm standing there, and I'm like, Grace is like, Dad, you good? I'm like, yeah, it won't be a problem. Not a problem. And he goes, sir, what do you got in your pockets? I'm thinking, I don't think I got any. I was wearing these exact jeans, frankly. And I go, I don't think I have anything in my pockets. And he's like, well, you clearly do. And he said some things that I can't quote in church, but he's like, you got some stuff around your groin. And I was like, didn't appreciate him using the G word on me. Like, groin, bro? I don't know if that's appropriate. Is that in your training? And then the word before groin, it was a curse word. And and so I pull out lens wipes for my glasses. And they're little prepackaged, because I'm a child, little prepackaged lens wipes that I always keep on me, because you never know when you need to clean your glasses. And so I pull out the wipes, and he's like, see? And I'm like, I wanted to be like, well, I mean, they're my wipes. I didn't want to put them, I don't want to lose my wipes, So I figured, not a problem. I show him the wipes. He's like, fine. And he's like, I got to pat you down. So, listen, guys, I'm an old pro, all right? I've done this a million times. I know the drill. Little bam, 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 bam. We're good. No, not today. This is literally 3 days ago. And I'm standing like this. He's like, hands up. I'm like, all right. He's like, hands behind your head. And he proceeds to he's doing this. I can't make this up. And I'm like, oh, bro, I don't know if you're supposed to touch my face. I don't know. And he's doing this. He's got his hand in my collar, and he's rapping, and I go, whoa. Now I'm starting to kind of make a little bit of all right, and as God is my witness, he's like, hands down, hands back up. He says, now hold your pants. And I'm like, hold my pants? What is going on? And he's doing he is feeling everything the good Lord gave me on my birthday. And at one point, he does this, and he hit me in the G part, and I go, dog. I couldn't keep it. Dog. I go, whoa, dog. And he's like, what? I go, this is wild. I said, I'm flat, but this is wild. And he's like, oh, you want me to get my supervisor? And I was like, what will he do to me? No, God, no. You guys are probably friends. I don't want your supervisor. And I go, dog, I'm trying to rebutton. I go, bro, I fly a lot. This is pretty wild. He's like, do you always have bleep in your groin? And I was like, no, I don't, and I'm so sorry. He's like, you're free to go. But I didn't feel free. I didn't feel free at all. I felt violated. I love you guys, man. Thanks for coming to church. Band's coming out. No, I'm kidding. Was that a sermon? Sometimes he just processes out loud. He's a good pastor, though, once a month. And I felt funny. I just felt funny. And my daughter's like, Dad, you okay? And I'm like, I just don't understand what just happened. I don't know if you saw that, baby girl, but it was crazy. And what I love about the TSA, like, who are you gonna talk to complain about the TSA? You ever asked yourself that? Who you gonna call, bro? They work for like an entity that works for an entity that is paid by the government. You can't like, hey, this TSA person, they don't answer to nobody. I mean, no one, okay? So I'm like, I don't know what to say, but I feel a little violated. And I started thinking about how I could relate that to my sermon tonight. And it's difficult, but I can do it. I can do it. And this was the best connection I could come up with to connect this to my sermon. And that is that, like, you ever like been like really open to like faith in God, and then you feel like your experience at faith was kind of like being searched by a TSA guy, and he's mad at you because you got stuff in your pockets. And I just want to say for the record, when it comes to freedom, there has to be more than just making sure we got everything out of our life, out of our pockets, and we're free. In fact, I know I started the way I started, but I want to say this. When we start talking about freedom, there's got to be something more than just you changing some of the habits you don't like about you. In fact, I want to take us a layer deeper, because the last thing I want is to be a part of a community of faith where you feel like I'm a TSA agent just trying to make sure you don't have stuff in your pockets. Now, we all got stuff. See, am I doing it, or is that just me? We all got stuff in our pockets. And if you're like me, I've been in church long enough and been in some sermons, preached some, listened to some, sang some songs, been in environments like this, and I go home feeling a lot like I felt after going through that TSA experience. Kind of like, I literally was dealing with, and obviously I'm way too sensitive, okay? I'm literally fragile like a flower, okay? But I'm sitting at the gate waiting to board, and I'm like, I didn't know I had stuff around my groin, like, that was so mean. And I think sometimes when it comes to God, a lot of people didn't come here tonight, and they wanted to. They thought maybe they should, but they didn't want to leave feeling like I felt after TSA, feeling like, I know I got stuff in my pockets. I know I got stuff. I know I'm a piece of work. I know I got to change that habit. I know I got to quit this and stop this and start that, and I got to do this. And I told you about my physical recently with the doctor, and he's like, do you work out? And immediately shame, guilt, pain over me. And I was like, not really. But why did I go? I say to the doctor, I used to do yoga. Like, that's irrelevant, Judah. Used to, kind of just sums it up there, buddy. And he looks at me and he goes, all right. What do you do now? I preach once a month. I burn a lot of calories. But if you're like me and you come to environments like this, sometimes you feel like, oh no, he's gonna start talking about stuff I need to change, how I need to get free. I don't know, I don't think there's a person watching on the internet or in this theater in Beverly Hills right now who doesn't have something you wish you could get free from. But perhaps freedom is deeper than that. Perhaps freedom is deeper than your performance. It's deeper than your past. It's deeper than your present. Perhaps freedom is deeper than your pain. Perhaps freedom is deeper than the pressure you feel. Perhaps there is another layer of freedom. Now, what we're gonna do tonight, and I gotta be honest with you, I didn't think that I'd be able to connect that TSA story the way I just did, but I enjoyed that. I didn't write that out. I just kind of winged it because I figured you needed to hear that story. That's a true, by the way, I did not exaggerate that story. My daughter is not here to confirm that, but I'm telling you, I forgive that man. I literally had to forgive him, though. You guys were laughing. I'm like, I literally had to forgive him multiple times. I know, I'm growing up, I'm learning. Okay, we're gonna go to John chapter 8, and I'm gonna read to you two very famous quotes from Jesus. Of course, these quotes are about freedom. And what we're gonna try to discover and uncover tonight together is how free can we actually be? Again, I'm gonna ask that you take that thing you wanna stop doing and you let it go and you allow yourself to sit under these words and phrases and statements made by Jesus and perhaps what has actually been happening to me. I really mean this. The last several weeks of my life, I have not tried to be angry less. I've not tried to be annoyed less. I've not tried to be less judgmental. I've not tried to be less lustful. I've not tried to be, but I literally realized a few weeks in, like, Chell, like oh my word. And it's like, I'm 46 and I've been a preacher for 27 years. Jesus is real. And it's happening to me. Like I'm changing. I'm becoming more free. So let me explain. Jesus says this. You've heard this verse before. Those who've been in church for a while or even haven't been in church, you probably, somebody has this tattooed somewhere. So, you know what I mean? So, if the Son sets you free from sin, then become a true son and be unquestionably free. Jesus speaking about himself. If the Son sets you free from sin, then become a true son and be unquestionably free. Okay. I looked all the words up and all the meanings and stuff, and so we'll talk about that in a moment. But here's what got me when I read this verse. Unquestionably free. Unquestionably free. Now that captivated me because I know something about me, it's probably true about you too. I question my freedom a lot. And what I mean by that is I question my progress a lot. I question, am I, like, I don't know. I hope you do this as well. While I'm saying this, I'm like, I hope I'm not the only one because that would be super awkward. But I think that Jesus has set me free, and I've been talking about him publicly on platforms for 27 years. But sometimes because of my past, because of my performance, because of my pain, because of my pressure, because of the present circumstances, I wonder, am I free? Because I don't feel free. I don't feel free. How do you feel right now? Take inventory for a moment. How do you feel right now? I know feelings aren't everything, but I love them a lot. I'm a feeler. I love feelings. My favorite question you could ever ask me in the whole world is, how do you feel? I love it so much. It means so much to me. Judah, how do you feel? Thanks for asking. A lot better now that you asked. You know, I love to explore how I feel. God gave us feelings to feel. Do you feel free? Now, some of you are so smart, you're like, I mean, what does freedom feel like? I mean, like probably the opposite of like heavy. Probably the opposite of pressure. Probably the opposite of shame. Probably like the opposite of defeated. Somebody texted me today and said, I feel so defeated. And when I read that, I thought, me too a little bit. You ever not really felt something until somebody else says they felt it and you're like, oh, I kind of feel that too, actually. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Defeated, discouraged, alone. A friend of mine sent me this meme where this cat is looking out the window and the cat says to themselves, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely. When will this loneliness ever end? And all of a sudden, someone in the cartoon reaches out to touch, and the cat goes, don't touch me! And then looks back out and goes, when will this loneliness ever end? And I thought, that makes a lot of sense to me. You know what I mean? You ever felt so lonely, but then you're like, leave me alone. I'm lonely. Do you feel free? Do you feel free? Like, when I ask you, do you feel free? And the times you've said yes, what has that felt like? Jesus introduces, he's not an exaggerator. He introduces this concept that the Passion Translation does a really good treatment on the original language and translates. There is this space, there is this level, there is this mode where you are so free, you stop questioning whether or not you're free. I was like, yo, I could use some of that. You mean a place where you're so free, you're like, sure, you're free. You know, a place you're so free that even when stuff around you is the opposite of free and you feel the opposite of free, you don't question because you know you're free. Suddenly, I'm like, that sounds like the best definition of freedom. And nobody can talk you out of it. I've had people talk me out of a good mood a lot. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, you're like, man, I'm having a great day. You're not, you hate it. Bad day, it's terrible, right? Oh, yeah, all right. Ooh, yeah, worst day ever. I've had people talk me out of progress and growth. And, Judah, I don't know if, you seem pretty much the same guy to me. And you're like, yeah, that's true. I'm an idiot. Why did I believe? A big obstacle for many people here tonight, if we're really honest, I don't know who I'm talking to. This isn't in my notes. Wait, I don't have any. But truthfully, there are people here tonight, one of the biggest obstacles you'll ever have for the rest of your time here as a human being is actually accepting that in the moment you are thinking about transformation and change, that it's actually possible. Are you like me? I can take moments and so minimize them. And I'm really good at someday God's going to. And then you realize the someday is just a day like today. And eventually you're gonna have to get to one of those days that are just as ordinary as the day and the moment and the minute and the hour you're in right now. And you're gonna have to actually go, you know what? I think that today could be the day. That today could be the someday that God changes my life forever. Some of you are so smart. Honestly, take this as a compliment. You're so smart. You come up with all the reasons why today isn't the day and now isn't the moment. And perhaps God, isn't really gonna do it right now. You know what's interesting is that some of you will sit in the same row with somebody whose whole life, it happens every week. It's wild. You're sitting in the same row with somebody. You're literally 3 feet away from somebody whose whole worldview, perspective, and paradigm and attitude is gonna change forever tonight. And you're wondering, it wouldn't be that tonight. And yet, 3 feet, 3 seats down, that person. So if it can happen to them, why couldn't tonight? And I don't know if you can tell, but I got a little bit of expectation because what has been happening to me over the last several weeks, I'm telling you, is not normal. If you're like me, when I get tired, that's when I want to sin. Sin is just missing the mark, by the way. Let's not get all like, ooh, sin. It's just being a jerk. Being rude, crude, mean, and self-serving, self-absorbed, and selfish. And when I get tired, I am telling you, I have never been this tired in a long time. I'm really tired, okay? That's the truth. I've been pretty tired lately. And I'm waiting for the maniacal little guy inside of me that's like, you're so tired. Let's just be mad at everybody. Are you I went to bed the other night and I was like, wow. I feel loving and caring and I'm exhausted. I don't feel sneaky and offended and lustful. I feel happy and forgiving and caring and no one's around and I'm going to sleep. This is crazy. What is happening to me? I think it can happen to you. I'm being serious. I really believe the thing you're most embarrassed in your whole life about, God can begin to adjust and change in you. Perhaps together we can experience a life of being unquestionably free. Now, Before we go to another verse, and I won't go much longer, okay? Which I'm not sure what that statement means, but I hope in a way. Was that a puppy? Was that a puppy? Okay, yeah, no, I was just making sure. If it was a human, it's kind of scary. But it's just a puppy, okay. You know what I mean? I was like, is the person okay? But if it's a puppy, we're good. All right. I need to start bringing my puppy. I'm dead serious. My little Louie, he got a little haircut a couple days ago. I don't want to get into the details. Okay, all right. Don't get me sidetracked, guys, okay? I got lots of puppy stories. So, do you guys remember that one time I was preaching in the Saban and I started with a whole dog story, kind of like the TSA story, and it goes forever. And finally this guy like sitting back there, he's like, enough with the dog story, get to the Bible. Do you guys remember that? And I stopped and I was like, he's got a pretty good point. To be honest, like I have been talking about this dog for a long time. I appreciate that guy, I really do. I thought he had a good point. Okay. The word free or set free here means to owe nothing. The original language, in the Greek, the Hebrew, when he says, if the Son sets you free, the sets you free, we make it 3 words. In the original language, it's 1 word. And it literally means that you owe nothing, that you are completely released from any liability. You are set free. I am convinced in my life, and perhaps yours, that we move around this planet feeling like we owe a lot. One of my favorite statements, and maybe I should change it, was like, y'all owe you my life. Y'all owe you for that one. We are prone as human creatures to literally think in terms of you do for me, I do for you, what we owe, what we don't owe, debts, payables, receivables. This is kind of how our brain works. And it's interesting, in this ancient language, the set free means that you owe nothing and you are completely free from all liability. And that, yeah, those are very uniquely alone claps, but I respect them. You know what I mean? Like, you are courageous clappers. And that one person just kind of kept going. And I think was hoping that you guys would join them, and you never did. So that's good. No, it's great. I respect it. Now you clap. That's convenient. But they were courageous. Right over here. Okay, all right. Well, it's just me. Okay. I love you guys. It's the best. Okay, so you owe nothing. What else could he mean? So if Jesus frees you from liability, if Jesus frees you from owing anything because of your actions, sin, speaking of your performance, then now become a true member of the family and live without ever questioning that you are free, you owe nothing, and you're liable for nothing. You are free. Now, no. We're going to keep going, but hold on a second. I'm going to tell you something. If you, for the rest of your life, kept this idea that you owe nothing and you are not liable for all the selfish, self-serving, hurtful, painful things you did, I'm going to let you on a little secret, and I could probably prove this scientifically. If you accepted that, absorbed that, and believed that you owe nothing, there's no liability, your life would change. I promise you. If you actually, because what that is the eradication of all shame and guilt. I promise you, your whole life would change. Do you know, some of you, the reason you're mean to people is because you feel like they owe you something. Judah, TSA. All right. Like, it's one of the reasons you're struggling in your marriage is because shame sits on you. And you get angry with the feeling and you take it out on your spouse. I'm telling you, when he says you're free from liability and you owe nothing, what he's taking is he's taking the sting out of shame and guilt. What's guilt? I need to make that, The freedom Jesus speaks of is that all of that is, now listen. This freedom that we speak of, I'm telling you, in a community of faith where we all believe that Jesus can set you free like this, we start living a transcendent experience one with the other. But I urge you to understand that most of people in this life on earth don't understand this, and so they will hold you liable, they will take you to court, they will say that you owe them. But what if your attitude, while still moving through this earth, you have debts and payables and receivables, and life is life, but you started to really absorb and accept a freedom from guilt and shame and this debt based on your performance. Jesus wants to set you free. What causes me to question whether or not I am truly becoming who I dream to be. Now, I don't know who you dream to be, but I gotta tell you at 46 years old, who I dream to be is a man who is true through and through. Now, that might sound selfless and wonderful. I'm just telling you because I know the key to happiness. I really do. And I believe it has everything to do with the connection with the one who built me in the first place. I believe there is a creator and a designer. I believe that everything in this life speaks volumes to that reality. For every chair, chair maker. Every building, building maker. Right? Bubblegum maker. It goes on and on and on. We have a law in this earth, and everywhere we see inventions and creations, and I'm telling you, we are no exception. We are the result of a divine, brilliant, genius creator. And I believe the key to being happy is to being close to the creator so that he can tell you why he made you. And so the closer I get to that, and I realize he made me for him to enjoy me, and I enjoy him, and I enjoy what he's made, all of a sudden career accomplishments and trophies on a shelf, they are wonderful and they have their place, and I hope you give me a trophy, but I know the key to happiness is to know him and to become like him and to fulfill the reason he made me. In a minute, this wonky contraption, which we know is a drum, but you can imagine if this is the first time you ever saw this, you'd be like, what is the sparkly thing with the big, what are those for? And then in a moment, the band's gonna come up and boom, chick, boom, chick, and you're gonna be like, woo, I like those. Because all of a sudden it's being fulfilled, completed, expressed, and used for what it was designed for. That's what happens when you connect with your creator, is you start to be fully you, fully alive, fully aware, fully loving, fully forgiving, all these things, and life becomes so much more than getting the bad stuff out of your pockets. You fall in love and you become loving. You become the kind of person people can depend on. You become a person who says what you mean and mean what you say. A dad that your kids can count on, a husband your wife's proud of, a friend that your brothers know is consistent, and you just feel alive. That's what I want. And I can't help but think, that's what you want. And yet so often and so much of our life, I feel, at least for me, I'm like this contorted, twisted version of who I can really be. And sometimes I lay in my bed like you lay in your bed, and I'm thinking, when am I ever gonna change? And I think Jesus made you, and I think he can change you. And the first step when it comes to Jesus is that this freedom he speaks of
is taking all of your shame and your guilt and your pain from all of your failed performance, which the scripture calls sin. In today's modern culture, we hate the term. Fine, I don't care. We all know that people do bad stuff, mean stuff, selfish stuff, and we hurt each other. Okay, that's called missing the mark, i.e. sin. The whole story of Jesus is not of religion. It's not of getting stuff out of your pockets. I am not here tonight to try to coach you into good habits. I am not a motivational speaker. I am a storyteller, and I tell one story, and it's about a superhero. And the reason I believe he is super and heroic is because the Bible says he was born of a virgin, had a stepdad named Joe. He was born in a barn or a cave in Bethlehem. He grew at 30 years old. He started to manifest his miracles and perfection. It should be noted that when he was a toddler at 2 years old, some of the wisest, wealthiest men of the known world came and worshiped a toddler. That's a miracle if you know toddlers. And then at 12 years old, he was at the synagogue and he was repeating things about the Torah that blew away the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the religious teachers who had the Torah memorized word for word, book for book. And Jesus was going back and forth at 12 years old. Who is this? This is wild. And he goes back with mom and his stepdad in a caravan. He goes back and lives in silence and solitude until finally he's at a party. He's at a wedding. They run out of alcohol. That is a very, very, very big problem. And the first miracle Jesus ever does at 30 years old, never had done anything wrong. He was perfect. He was sinless. His mom said, son, I'm going to need you to help us out with the drinks. And his first miracle was making drinks at a party. And he turned water into wine. I don't know if it's possible in the new heaven and the new earth, but I want to taste that wine, okay? And he made alcohol. And the Bible says that the people at the wedding party, which probably lasted an entire week in antiquity, said when they drank that wine, they said, this is crazy. We're also already buzzed and stuff because we've been drinking. Who saves this kind of wine when we're already buzzed and can't all the way taste it? And it was Jesus. But I want you to understand his first miracle was a portrait and a picture of what he wants to do with your life. He wants to take your ordinary, average life like water, and he wants to turn it into something supernatural. He wants to turn you into something that you normally could not be on your own. You and me, we are water. You and me, we are normal. You and me, we're just as human as the next guy. But I'm telling you, when God gets a hold of your life and you let him take over, your designer and your creator, I'm telling you, he'll turn you into the best vintage you only dreamed possible. And all of a sudden, your life will taste sweet, and people will see you and be around you, and they'll say, man, what is it about you? You're so forgiving and you're loving and you're caring. I am not interested in a knowledge contest, an accomplished contest, or a bank account contest. I want to be as sweet as Jesus wants to make me. And that's what I'm talking about tonight. And I'm telling you, he can do it for you. And he's doing it for me. Some of you are so wrapped up with offense, and you're in so much agony over people who have hurt you, you can't stop thinking about people who hurt you and stopped thinking about you a long time ago. And you're so mad at them, you want to get back at them, and yet their offense and what they did to you has ruined your daily attitude. And the trick's on me and you, because as long as we don't forgive them, they affect us for the rest of our life. And God wants to work a miracle just like the water, and he wants to take that bitterness and that envy and that strife and that hatred, and he wants to heal you. I'm telling you, Jesus can do this. Now, I need to go to the next verse, and I promise I'm coming to a close. I think the piano player has come out. That's one part of the conclusion. Now, you've heard this one, John 8:32. This is earlier in the chapter. Jesus says this, and I quote, if you embrace the truth, it will release true freedom into your lives. Okay. So the last verse, he said, I want to set you free so that you can live unquestionably free. I want to set you free from shame and guilt. I want you to feel like you owe nothing. You have no liability. You are free. And here he says, if you embrace the truth, it will release true freedom into your lives. This is before 36, so this seems to be important for us to kind of absorb. If you embrace the truth. Okay, so I looked up truth because Jesus in other parts of Scripture says, I am the truth. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. The word truth here means reality. That's interesting. That's interesting. That's interesting because we're going to get somewhere here. And I promise you, where we're going to land this plane is going to be a lot easier than you ever imagined. Now, I want to say this before we go any further. I want to give credit and I want to give due to great communicators and orators and inspirers and motivational speakers and athletes and great people who will teach you how to get much out of your body, maximize your talent and your skill, and accumulate a lot of awards and build an incredible statistics and to be great at what you do. I want to draw a clear line of distinction. It is not my job, nor my calling, nor my mission, nor my agenda tonight to make you successful. My job is to help you be true you. Now. If you want to add the Mamba mentality and go produce great stuff in your business, go ahead and do it. And I love you. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about freedom, not accomplishments. I'm talking about getting free, not getting buckets. And getting buckets have a place. I'm going to tell you right now. But I want you to sell more real estate. I want you to make more money. I want you to get that gig, that job, that connection, that partnership. I really do. But what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world, but in the process loses his own soul? I need to talk to your soul. Let the other experts speak to the success of your career. That's not my job. I'm trying to help your soul because I know enough to know at 46 that you can get the best success coach and you can achieve it all and wake up one day and feel more empty than you've ever been. And so I'd like to put a priority on you, not what you do. I said you. You being free. Now, I'm gonna let you know a little caveat. I think this can really help oftentimes, that job interview. Because if you walk in there with no shame and no guilt and no freedom, chances are you'll probably give a better job interview than you would have had. But even if you get the job or don't get the job, you'll still have a skip in your step and a twinkle in your eye, and that's what I'm after. That's what I'm after, the true you. So here's how I think it happens. Jesus said, if you embrace the truth, who's the truth? Remember, Scripture interprets Scripture. He's the truth. He's the fullness of the Godhead in bodily form. Now, if you don't believe that Jesus is, you're like, I don't know about Jesus. Well, just safe to say, he is the most considerable person who's ever lived on the face of the planet, because thousands of years later, we still talking about him, and about 2 billion people follow his way and follow his teachings and follow his life. So at least we can say, ain't nobody like Jesus. So I quote the greatest man who's ever lived. He says, if you embrace the reality of what? If you embrace the reality of me, I will release true freedom into your lives. Now, in a moment, I'm going to take you to a concluding story, because this entire chapter starts with the story. So if you read John 8:36 and you read John 8:32 and you're going, dog, I don't even know what you're talking about. Okay, that's a lot of like, oh, nothing, liability. It's a lot of like court stuff and legal stuff, and I'm not sure what you're talking about. I don't know if I believe in sin. I don't know if I believe in Jesus. I don't know if I believe. Okay, then I'm going to tell you a story that will sum up the whole thing. But I want to amplify and enhance that point one more time. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. I believe the key to you experiencing the truest you possible is when you absorb, rehearse, remember, recall, and embrace that Jesus is real and that he's here now and he's here later and he's always present and that he's walking with you and that he'll never leave you nor forsake you. He is closer to you than your next breath. Who's that? Your designer, your creator, the one who knew you before your mom and dad named you and knew you. Picked your eyes, lips, hips, and fingertips. He did the whole package. It's you, and he loves you. And he's never been far. Contrary to popular preaching and opinion, he's never been far. He's always near. Now I'm going to prove it to you. Now, as we conclude and I tell you the story, I want to give you a little backstory on the story because this is very, very interesting. In some of the original Greek manuscripts, when the New Testament was confirmed, or the Dead Sea Scrolls, and amongst many other things, confirmed that this book of all books is a phenomenon and its preservation alone is miraculous. Some of the early church fathers, like Augustine or Augustine, literally argued about this particular story I'm about to read, or I should say, retell to you tonight. In fact, some of the early fathers took these some 11 to 12 verses that I'm about to rehearse with you, and they removed them. And Augustine, if you know that name, or Augustine, he's referenced different ways, he would argue many, many years ago that the reason the story I'm about to tell you was left out of some of the original manuscripts is because they felt this story was too scandalous, and they felt that perhaps Jesus would be misunderstood because it seems in this story that he's okay with adultery. And the religious people over the millennia have always struggled with how good could Jesus be? So I want you to know that the reason we have this story in most of our English translations is a work of God's miraculous hand. It's also accurate preservation, because there are and there have been wars fought over such literature and stories, because many people believed, whole groups of people believed, that this story could not be true because Jesus couldn't have cared for this bad, sinful woman the way he did. And I got good news. I know this is in the book, and I know it's supposed to be there. And I'm telling you, the woman is you and the woman is me. And I need this kind of Jesus. John chapter 8, verse 1. I'm reading, and I'm closing. Jesus walked up on the Mountain of Olives near the city where he spent the night. Then at dawn, at the rising of the sun, Jesus appeared in the temple courts again, and soon all the people gathered around to listen to his words, so he sat down and taught them. If you want to know what freedom looks like, friends, if you want to know what we're talking about, if you want to know how free God can make you, if you want to know how much he can clear the way for you and truly, 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 truly transform your life, then this story is for you. In the middle of his teaching at dawn, the religious scholars and Pharisees broke through the crowd and brought a woman who had been caught in the act of committing adultery and made her stand in the middle of everyone. Now, if you have been around religion of any kind, then I would simply like to suggest that at some point in your life, you either felt like this woman, who's probably covered only by a sheet, and she's embarrassed and humiliated and surrounded by people judging her. You've either felt like this, or you have felt like me after the TSA agent at SeaTac International Airport. Some of you have been around religion of all kinds enough to know that eventually religion leaves you humiliated, embarrassed, and you feel like you're just a crook with a bunch of stuff in your pockets. And you think to yourself, I don't belong here. I can't live out some perfect life. I got too many proclivities. I got too much pain. I got too much of a past. I got too much of a present. It says they put her in the middle of everyone. The opposite of free. She's surrounded by all these people. And she's probably the only one in a sheet, by the way. She's definitely the only one who was just caught having sex with another woman's husband. That's what had happened. Now, as the story goes, most preachers like me would like to note to the congregation and the crowd tonight, it is an odd thing to consider. How, in fact, did these men know that she was in the act with this man? That in and of itself speaks volumes about our humanness and our desire to judge each other and condemn each other. So they said this to Jesus. The woman probably shaking both from fear and shame and humility. They said, "Teacher, we caught this woman in the very act of having sex with a man that she is not married to." Now, the Torah, the law of Moses, says she should be stoned to the death, which in those days would be big rocks, and they would throw it at her skull until her brain would swell and she would die. This actually happened. So they said, "Now, probably already rocks in hands, tell us, what do you say we should do with her?" Because that's what the first 5 books of the Bible say. So what do you say we should do with her? They were only testing Jesus because they hoped to trap him with his own words and accuse him of breaking the laws of Moses. But Jesus didn't answer them. Instead, he simply bent down and wrote in the dust with his finger. There's a lot to be said there, but I know this, that the scripture says that God made us from dust. And so the last time we saw God's finger in dust, he was making man. And this is the second and only other time we see God's hand in dust. And it's in this particular moment, as if to let the readers know and those attentive enough to understand that God designed us, but he never designed us for this. Angry, they kept insisting that he answer their questions. So Jesus stood up and looked at them and said, Let's do this. Let's have the man who's never had a sinful desire throw the first stone at her. Uh-oh. A lot of people believe Jesus said, "Whoever's not sinned, throw." But he said, whoever has never had an impulse to have adultery, never had an impulse to cheat, never had an impulse to lie, never had a, you can throw the first stone. Now, please hear me, because I'm coming to a close. This is it. I'm done. It's only once a month, so, but I'm done. All right, but he's letting you know something, that somebody is allowed to judge, but the only appropriate judge for you and me would be somebody who themselves has not sinned. So it says, angry, they kept insisting that he answer their question. And then the next verse, and then he bent over again and wrote some more words in the dust. We don't know what words. Upon hearing that, her accusers slowly left the crowd one at a time, beginning with the oldest to the youngest, with a convicted conscience. Until finally, please hear me, I'm done, please hear me. This is the close. Jesus was alone with the woman. All the years I've been living this life, I gotta tell you, I am now convinced that one of the things God is after with you and your stay here on earth is that at least, please hear me, at least one time, that perhaps you, yes you, could be alone with God in this life. It's one of my desires. I dream of a world where we could give at least every human being on this planet a chance, a real chance, to be alone with God. Because we're not still enough. We're so fast and furious and fierce and ferocious in our life, and we are rarely still. And it's as if God clears the room and it says he was alone with the woman. And in case you're wondering why God wants to get you alone, it's certainly not to condemn you. The woman's still standing in front of him. He stood back up and he said, listen. Dear woman, where are your accusers? Is there no one here to condemn you now? Now, you don't know what's happening, but let me just let you in on that. She knows, and everybody knows, and this community knows, that if you're going to get convicted of the crime in the law breaking of adultery, you got to have 2 witnesses, and now all the witnesses are gone. So now she knows she's not going to die. That's all that's happened. He's letting her know, you're not going to die today. Not on my watch. You're not going to die. I don't want you to die. Where are your accusers? Nobody's here to condemn you. Now, this is the part Augustine argued that our forefathers and early church fathers, they didn't think you could put this in the Bible. He can't be this good. It can't be this easy. It can't be this free. Looking around, she replied, I don't see anyone. I'm telling you, what I'm trying to tell you is that there's a God that wants to set you free from being preoccupied with your sin. He wants to bring you to a wide open space of grace where you stop being so preoccupied and caught up and captivated with the things you want to change. She says, no one, listen. She says, no one, Lord, which the word Lord there means, she just said to the man she's known for minutes, she's had enough time, had enough encounter, that she now calls the man who has dismissed the circle, you are God. She said, no one, God of all. That's what Lord means. God, you're the God of all. She said, there's no one. You must be God. And this is the early church fathers didn't like this because it couldn't. And he says, well, then certainly, most emphatically, let me be very clear. I am certainly not going to get a rock, because what you don't know is in a matter of months, I will go to a cross where I will take all of the judgment and the pain in my body so that you can be free. And he says, now go. You could clap or you could wait a little bit because I'm not done yet. But I love you guys. We got to work on the clapping timing. It's not a problem, but it's okay. We'll talk about it later. Jason Kennedy will do some seminars. When to clap. But I'm just kidding. You can clap whatever you want. Go from now on and be free from a life of sin. That's what he does. Now, some translations say go and sin no more. It doesn't capture I promise you, I looked at the original language. You think Jesus is saying, now don't you go sinning anymore. Hey, young lady, you can't be, doing this anymore. They might catch you again, and I might not be around. No, he says, that life defined by performance is over. That life defined by do good, get good. That life defined by bad habits, good habits. That life defined by pressure and pain and past and present and proclivities. And I want your life to be about a person. Go now and be free from a life of you and trying and effort. Now you're free to live a life of awe and worship. So here's what I think has been happening to me. And I'm being so serious. I promise you, I'm not making this up. Chelsea will confirm this at some point if you run into her like a coffee shop or something. So over the last several years, and I gotta stop because I'm already crying and I haven't got to the words yet, which is very problematic when you're already at the time I'm at, but that's okay. What are you gonna do? I'm sure did the Dodgers win, by the way, guys, before we go any further? What happened? They lost? They're still, get out of here, that's crazy. Good, you're not missing a thing. The Dodgers are up 1. You guys said there's not a God. You imagine if you hadn't come to church? Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well played. I love you. It's because we gathered that the Dodgers are winning. Things preachers say. I love it. I love preachers. Okay, I'm closing. I think what's been happening to me, and I didn't even mean it to happen, but I'm trying to put it in words so that you can have it happen, is when we started at Jason's house, I had been preaching a long time, and we had started this, my dad started this church in Seattle and had grown, and I came, and about 12, 13 years ago, my life began to change because of this city. And all of a sudden, I started telling you how great Jesus was, and then you started to show me how great he was. And I started to see all these people like fall in love with him, and I was like, whoa, that was easy. And then Jason's like, let's keep doing it. And then I went to the board of elders, and I was like, I think we need to keep doing this. And they're like, yeah, keep doing it. And so I kept coming and coming and coming, and then my kids ended up going to high school in LA because we felt as a family that, perhaps we were supposed to be in LA. Then I found out my great-grandpa had like a grocery store in Beverly Hills, and he used to drive kids to see Catherine Coleman in the back of a truck, which is completely illegal and unsafe and not cool, but because he believed that perhaps someday God would show up in a really big way in Beverly Hills. And in the basement of his grocery store, he had a little prayer place where people could take time off to pray that someday God would show up and show everyone that Jesus is real in Beverly Hills. And so in a way, it's like suddenly I felt connected to my great-grandfather and felt like maybe I'm supposed to be here telling LA, how real Jesus is, having no idea that in the process that, he would become so real to me and some of my closest friends. And so now my life is, so I talk about him a lot, and I think about him and I see, like, I've turned into this 46-year-old man with gray hair who, like, admires birds and like super green grass, and like, I like smells, and I just turned into this just super odd 46-year-old, essentially my dad, yeah, I kind of forgot that I was trying to change, and I really mean this. A few days ago, I told Chelsea, I said, man, like, you say these things, and then, like, I'm gonna go home and get in a fight with Chelsea, like, tonight, you know what I mean? You're like, oh God, I hope it sticks, but I feel like, I just feel a lot like that woman, and I feel like you can too, where, my life isn't a life of sin anymore. And I gotta tell you, I preached a long time, and I was still really focused on not sinning. I did a lot of preaching while I was still just trying not to sin. And I've been through a lot of painful things and had a lot of friends do things I didn't know about and hurt my feelings. And, preachers are just guys and gals who struggle just like you, and it could be sex, drugs, anything, And I said, man, I don't want to sin, and I'm like you. It's like, man, I don't want to do any really bad sins, because we're supposed to be like Jesus people. But just this last chapter, I have felt so preoccupied with him, and I didn't even know, but my appetites had been changing. And I started praying, and I wasn't timing my prayers, and I realized I've been praying a long time. And then I got impressed with myself. I'm like, man, you are so spiritual, bro. But what I'm telling you works. And what happens is, like, I just want to see the video of that woman's life. She wasn't perfect, I know that. But I don't think she was ever the same. I wonder if that could happen to you. I spent so much of my life surrounded by all the things I need to change about me. And I wonder if the goal is that my life would be a life of worship, not a life of sin. A life of just like, God, I can't believe I'm alive. God, I can't believe I get to do this. Instead of being mad at people who hurt me, being grateful for people around me. And I know I've gone long, but I mean, come on, like, a Netflix special is like an hour and a half. Why can't you change, and why can't it start tonight? Some of you, it's an addiction. But I don't think your life's supposed to be about focusing on this addiction. I think it's supposed to be focused on him. And I want you to know that, maybe I'm not supposed to say this, but like, even if you still struggle, you're forgiven. And I'm the preacher that says, even while you're doing the thing you're addicted to, you should say that you're loved and you're free. Because his freedom is not defined by what you do and don't do. It's defined by the eternal reality that he has paid your penalty. You owe nothing and you have no liability. You are free. And that is the only truth that's really changed me. I gotta be honest. My dad scared the living daylights out of me. I was spanked as a child. You can't even say that in 2024. But terror and fear can only go so far. And then love can take you further than you ever imagined. You're so loved. And I want you to change. You know that? Like I want you to become who you always dreamed of. We're all embarrassed of something in our life. What if God could make us more true than we've ever been through and through? What if you could be the person that some of your favorite people think you are? What if we could continue to craft a community together that is more transparent and authentic and open than we've ever been? You know, that's what I dream of. So I'm glad to announce I didn't even preach to the end of the baseball game. So that's saying something. But I want to pray for you. You close your eyes if you're comfortable. You don't have to, but it's just if you're comfortable. So I drove over here tonight from my house thinking that maybe some of you would never be the same again. Call me a dreamer. Call me positive. But I believe. Do you keep telling yourself you're going to be? What if tonight you started to become? What if tonight you felt Jesus in a way? He said, embrace my reality and I will make you free. He's not mad at you. He loves you. He's proud of you. He already forgave you. You're his, and he's going to walk with you all the days of your life. There are people here under the sound of my voice. You have been so ashamed. You've been so defeated. You've been so hard on yourself. And God is asking you to let go. Let him step in. God, in the name of Jesus, I pray for every person here under the sound of my voice. We have been here now for quite some time, thinking about you and thinking about these scriptures. We need more than thoughts. We need an encounter with God. So meet us here now, oh great God. Oh wonderful, wonderful Jesus. Wonderful Jesus. I know it might sound strange and you don't have to do this, but I think somebody is supposed to do this. You don't have to, but this is part of what we do in guided prayers. But I'm gonna ask you, you can open up your hand right in front of you, and I want you to see that open hand in front of you right now, and I want you to put the very thing that you want to be free from. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna give it to God. That's not what we're gonna make our day about tomorrow. It's not what we're gonna make our night about tonight. You just give that to God. You put that thing right there. It could be anger, it could be lust, it could be lying, it could be cheating, it could be pride, it could be hate, it could be prejudice, it could be whatever. Whatever it might be. And it could be greed. You just put that right in front of him. You're just gonna give it to him. He'll take it, he'll take it, he'll take it, he'll take it, and then there'll be no one but you and him. No one but you and him. God, we need these moments with you. Meet us now as we sing. Lord, as we make melody together as a community, meet us here in a real and tangible and authentic way. We don't want hyperbole. We don't want cliche. We don't want mere emotion. What we need is you. If you are there, God, and you are big and you are real and you are present, then manifest yourself in this room. Meet my friends of all kinds and all backgrounds and journeys and paths. You know our pain. You know our past. You know our present. You know our problems. You know our pressures, and you are the person we crave. You have the power we need, and so we ask for that now in this moment. Let your presence be evident and obvious in this room, even now, in Jesus' name. If you're willing and able, would you stand to your feet? Let's join the band and the singers. Come on, let's express our gratitude